Mental health awareness.
Welcome to the Gauteng Network. We are here today at the Thabo Mbeki Library at the University of South Africa in the Khorong building. We are here today to just discuss on a pertinent topic, which is men's mental health. In this month of November, it is also known as Brovember, otherwise known as the outreach to men's mental issues. Firstly, on our panelists today, we have one of our speakers by the name of Sirubelo Jones.
Thank you for having me. My name is Lloyd Tabete, known as Sirubelo Jones, the founder and the CEO for Sirubelo Jones Foundation, the foundation that has to do with a boy child. We nurture a boy child, we advocate for a boy child, and I'm also a winner for Unseen International Pageantries 2023, and also first runner-up from Mr. Gay Nation SA, and I just recently won an award for LGBTIQ plus as an activist. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sirubelo. And next on our panel is someone who is well known in the arts industry, Mxolisi Masilela.
Sure. My name is Mxolisi Masilela, the Great. I'm the founder and the artistic director of an organization in a theater space called the TX Theater. Primarily, I'm a writer, I'm a director, I'm an activist. The list is endless, but that's me. And during the conversation, we'll get to engage and know each other better.
Thank you, Mr. Masilela. To just cross over now, another one of our panelists out here with us today is Giovanni Brandt, someone who is part of the LGBTQ community as well.
Thank you. My name is Giovanni Brandt. I am from Pretoria. I have experience in education, so I was a teacher. I'm actually finishing up as a teacher now. Now I'm going over to my businesses I run, so I've got the events companies, I've got pageants, everything that works together with one another, that feeds one another. So in this country, we can't rely on sponsors, we have to rely on ourselves. And that's how I do my charity work and so on. I'm also doing pageants for the same reason. Therefore, I've entered this year, I am now the current Mr. Gay Nations Hero, which is the charity award, as well as I won first runner-up last month. So yeah, that's who I am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brandt. And right as you have that mic there, Pellet Ladla, could you please just introduce yourself as well?
Thank you. My name is Petla Zaza, comedian from Tembisa. I want to sound like them and have more titles, but I don't have. I'm a single parent, funny guy, helping out people. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ladla. And also on the panel with us today is Mpumelelo Buthelezi. Just give us a rundown of who you are.
All right, my name is Mpumelelo Buthelezi from an organization called Boys Mentorship South Africa, where we groom young men and helping them to become what God wants them to become. I'm a facilitator and a mentor. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mpumelelo. Lastly, on this panel is someone from all the way in Malawi, Teja Nkorojan. Pardon, apologies for butchering your last name.
I didn't know my name was that difficult. No, my name is Taja Konjera,
Yes.
and I am from Malawi. I studied public health at the University of Malawi. And after I graduated, I studied international community health in Australia. And then I studied gender studies and community leadership from Community Solutions Program and George Mason University in the USA. In Malawi, I work mostly with the youth. I love working with teens. I'm not very good with children. I studied child psychology, but I realized I'm not really good with children. I'm okay with teenagers, teens and young adults. So I work with teens and young adults for a long time, for maybe 15 years, with an NGO called Youth Network for Sustainable Health and Development. So we work mostly in health education. And over the years, I realized, especially in the last 8 to 10 years, that in Malawi we're having a lot of suicide cases. And the suicide affects mostly boys and men at a ratio of maybe, I don't want that the ratio should reverse. I'm thinking like the ratio of maybe almost 90% to 10%. Like 90% men dying from suicide and 10% of women. So, and the research in Malawi, we've always had a lot of non-profits working for the girl child.
Yeah.
So that's why I appreciate the boy child. We're only slowly getting to understand that gender doesn't mean only women empowerment. Gender is across the board, inclusive. So I'm really honored to be in this talk today, in this forum. I'm looking forward to learning a lot from South African stories and to sharing also our Malawian background and our Malawian stories, especially also from a cultural perspective. Because I work, yes, in mental health, but I also work in the arts with an organization called Digamaoko Arts, where we work to put young Malawian artists on professional platforms in the arts. So I see firsthand that the need for mental health amongst artists in Malawi also. Thank you.
And as we go into this discussion with my brothers here, I would like to also acknowledge one of our co-presenters today piloting with me is Ume Shelum Tombeni. She'll be also engaging with us on some questions that may be coming across from the list, from the viewers, people we've prepared, and also interactions that we've had out there in our street quiz. So just to look at it today, before we get into it, there's something about men's mental health being a stigma. And the stigma in itself is an unspoken taboo in society. And you have people not necessarily seeing issues that men face being pertinent to be discussed. So looking at that, I will start off with Olisi and ask, in your work with fatherless men, how have you observed cultural narratives about masculinity affecting ability to seek support or confront emotional pain?
Yeah. I mean, also thinking about it being a stigma. In black communities, mental health on its own is a stigma, you know? But depressed kanjani kunokudla efrijini, you know those talks in our homes, that we do not necessarily have a space for a mental illness to exist. For me to learn about mental health and depression, it was when I tried committing suicide in 2021, that there is a mental illness in the black communities and is not as visible as Mopete flu or having a headache, you know. And with the work that I'm doing with fatherless men is also beyond the understanding of what it is that has created us to be depressed, created us to be suicidal, created us wanting to leave this earth thing, you know. So there isn't a space or a form that helps a black boy to find help to deal with mental health. So for me also, this whole program of fatherless men was initiated by a play that I wrote a couple years ago called These Are Not My Shoes, a story based on how my father left, you know, and how we navigated through our family to find ways to father ourselves, you know, and not dealing with the pain, not dealing with the traumas, not dealing with the cause that later becomes a depression that will force you to take your own life. So for me I think there's still a void and there's still a stigma, you know, that men do not have access to help, men do not have access to information, men do not have support to even begin a conversation about mental health. So that program is also about We Are Here, which is an organization that was founded by a friend of mine, Antonio Lyons, who lives in the US. It's about how do we then create a new generation of men, you know, using theater as a form to deal with all of these topics. So for me, I feel we're still finding ways on how do we create systems that will support these fatherless men, there's young boys who are traumatized, there's boys who have also all sort of mental issues. So for me there isn't yet. If there is, probably 2 or 3%, but there isn't enough that could help us help a boy child or a fatherless man to find ways to exist.
Yeah. And just as we go into that, I want to just bring it again to my right over here. Javon, you as a queer man, and again, a queer man in South Africa, you have orientations and traditions that you face that have affected you mentally. Could you just give us some insight in terms of masculinity from your perspective, looking at the conservative and traditional element of masculinity?
So I think the biggest part of mental health for gay men is bullying. That's why many boys take their own life, because they cannot take the bully. They say it's just we call it's just a phase we are going through. We are not gay, we're just a phase. And then I always say, why would I be choosing to be bullied? So I'm literally putting myself out there to be hated. And I think the biggest problem is we don't have support. The support is not there. And it's not just from our family and our friends, it's from our own community. We don't have the support. So I feel, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but the problem lies by the bullying. Another thing I'm always saying is, I don't expect you to change your views and now accept gay people. I don't expect that of anyone. If that is your view, that's fine. I only simply ask, just, what's the word? Sorry, I'm Afrikaans. So in between, now I lost the word.
Yeah, you can give it to us in Afrikaans.
Ondersteun my net. Just support us. More, it's not support really, it's more like, I've got the word, I can't now know it. But you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to force my gayness onto you, but I just ask you, don't bully me because of that. Just, you have your point of view, I have my point of view, let's respect each other's space, you know? Let's just be civil, and then I think a lot of that problems will go away. So you don't have to call names, you don't have to say like, you look gay today, or you look like a faggot, you know? Those are the type of things that gets into the head, and when you lie in bed at night, that is the things you're thinking about. You are just this piece of this, or you're just this, or, you know, and that is where boys goes down. Because just as straight guys, gay guys also don't like to cry, because we're already feminine, we're already queer, we're already being bullied, we're already been called anything out of the dictionary. So being there in your bed, now saying it to yourself, is another problem, you know? That is the biggest problem, and I've struggled with that. I still sometimes struggle with that, because as soon as I think I've got control, someone comes along the road and just bully you.
Yeah.
And even out of your own community. So I can't say it's just across straight, gay. It's men bully each other. Females love to bully men. Men love to bully the same way around, but we are not speaking about men. So I think, and I'm saying it a lot, is bullying is a major factor in the community. And that's why I did my pageants. So my pageants is there to tell everyone, no matter your race, your age. I've got a 49-year-old lady that took part in the pageant. And she placed because she had the values. She had the drive. And that is what I want to do for people, is if you can just feel like you are doing something good, you are getting somewhere, or, you know, just being awarded for what you actually stand for, that will already increase mental health.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just to go back to our co-pilot here today, Ms. Shelin Tombeni. I just want to find out from her perspective, what are the questions that we have there? Maybe if you can give us a few, if possible.
All right, thank you, Cindy, sir. So this one is directed to all the panelists. How does the perception that men should always be providers and protectors affect their mental health, especially when they lack emotional support from their partners or families?
Okay. On a lighter note, my brother, it's the first time I'm meeting a Malawian who's not a tailor. I've lost my job 2 years ago, and I've been struggling with that throughout. As a single parent, it's hard to now be someone who's asking for help when you're the one who was actually the helper or the help, so to say. So yeah, it's hard, eh? Even families now, it drives you mad because even if you pass by, maybe your sister is chatting to a friend about someone who's unemployed. You're not thinking they're talking about you. Like, oh, Amara, why are you telling the whole world?
Yeah.
So it's hard. And I'm doing stand up. Sometimes it pays, sometimes it doesn't. And now you have a child that expects to eat every day, be cool when it's hot, be warm when it's cold. So it's difficult. And we as men, you can't actually go and talk to someone about it. We hate hospitals. We hate going to counseling. I think they should put strippers at clinics. Maybe, yeah, maybe we'll say, yeah, well, something that will, because we only go there if your thing is not working. We only go to, yeah. I mean, I've done it, and I went to see a shrink, and it sort of relieved some of the stress. You talk about it, even though they ask you, what do you think you should do? You're like, Mara, wait, I'm here, so you can give me a way how to do this. But yeah, it does help talking about it, because you sometimes tell your friend, and then they're like, yeah, Antoine, no, it will pass, let's drink. And that time, you still have a void, or you still want to pour out more. So it's really hard. I'm not even sure if I'm answering, but hey, when you a provider for years, now you've been provided for, it's not easy. You sometimes don't sleep at night. It drives you mad. Now, kids want new clothes, they want fashion, trending things. You have to try and get them. So it's hard as men, and you can't even cry about it, because apparently men don't cry, which I think is bull.
Yeah.
I cry when I need to. Why do I have tears? Oh, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Sherry?
Yes, no, just to jump on what he just said, to anyone, and the panelist, of course, follow up on what you just said. So you mentioned Usindo Daikali, right? So how do cultural expectations such as Indo Daikali, which means a man does not cry, shape the way Black men address or suppress their mental health struggles?
I mean, I'm also trying to think about it historically, that there's patriarchy, and historically a man is expected to provide. But that notion and that system was never updated when life took a different turn, when the economy became a different thing. So for me is the notions of Indo Daikali, they worked at some point, but they're no longer working now, There's a time and era in the existence of humanity where Indo Daikali or patriarchy was a system that was working. But now we are in times where those things do not work. Blala doesn't work, And that's why you'd find too many men committing suicide, too many men in prison. It's because of we never jumped ship. We never went out of the system that worked for that era or for those reasons, and also finding new cultural norms or new ways of existing in the space that we exist in. So also culturally, there's the different rite of passage that if you're a man, you need to go through this rite of passage so that you could take part in this and take part in that and take part in that. And if you don't go through that rite of passage, you are not defined as a man, But that also contributes in the mental illnesses that we don't even deal with it, And also the parenting situation about being a single parent, being a man, which nobody speaks about a man as a single parent. Is always a mother who is a single parent, And these are the cultural norms around it, and we've normalized it as a community that you are a man, swallow it, wake up, and then you go. And then when you commit suicide, then you are seen as weak man. And they don't even realize that committing suicide needs so much strength and convincing for you to do that. For me, it's also finding shifts and adapting in the new norms. Culturally, it needs to shift and also be accommodative. And also choosing partners is also now about they were raised by mothers who said, your father took care of this, you know. They were raised by grandmothers who were housewives. So it's a cultural inheritance that they've inherited. So, but as this generation, what is the contribution to begin to create a new narrative around culture, cultural norms and all of those things? Because now, they have a culture that they've inherited that umfazi need to raise kids and stay at home, you know,
Yeah.
and they're finding ways to fight that. But generally, a man needs to go out and come feed for their families, you know. And that's why many fathers, they left and never came back. Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we need to go back and look at the things how were done before. When you look at our forefathers,
Yeah.
they had a partnership. When the mother plays certain roles and the father plays a certain roles, there was an understanding that, okay, I go out as a man to hunt, I bring something at home, you keep the home warm and prepare food for the children. So when the time the responsibilities change or the responsibilities of a man being taken away, it was not responsibilities that were taken away. It was the identity of a man, because a man identifies himself as a provider. So when my responsibility has been taken away, I lost my identity. So I lost my value. So now there is no value for me as a man. There is no value, identity for me as a man, because the thing that identifies me being a man has been taken away from me.
Yeah.
Now I'm being seen useless, and the words that are coming. And now we are in a space, we're in a generation where I get married to someone who was raised by a single mother. This person has never seen the mother relate to a man. And he came and married someone who was raised by a single mother, who don't know how to be a man. So it's a formula of a disaster, its own.
Yeah.
Because now I'm expecting her to behave in a certain way that she has never seen from anyone, because she grew up with the mother. She never seen a woman relate to a man. And I'm asking what she cannot provide. And she's asking what I cannot provide. There is no template of saying, okay, how things are done so that we can see from that perspective. Now we are just a generation that is growing without understanding. So we need to go back and study the history of when the father was going to hunt and the mother was staying at home. What was the reason? Why was it working? Why was it working? And when it changes or shifted, so how can you move with the times and keep that thing? Because now we expect some things which they cannot happen in this generation. I think that understanding of looking back and finding templates to follow, finding formulas, finding people to learn from. We don't have people to learn from. We just learn from television, learn from everywhere. So, but there is no proper structure that taking through to a certain passage as a man.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. We'll definitely be picking up from, I see the excitement from the guests is really pumping up. But I think for now, we will just have to take a bit of a breaker to just pay ikoloto. Usindisa Ntlabati for the Gauteng Network. Welcome back. Cindy Sontlabati. We are here still at the Thabo Mbeki Library in the UNISA Khorong building. Now, as we said before, Mpumelelo Buthelezi was just speaking about the father structure in the family. And one of our guests was really excited to try and jump in on that. So you can just give us your perspective on what he said earlier on.
Okay, thanks. Just to add on, brother Buthelezi, what he was saying, Uguti, maybe we should go back where it come from. So I think before, or way back, there was this thing of a man should love and a woman should submit. So it's the man says chinchile. Women want to love and women expect more. Ukuthi umuntu wesilisa endlini must do that and that and manso by pressure if maybe usingabuyela emuva ukuthi this thing is 50-50 masingazama ukuthi sibisele back ukuthi indoda kube indoda ithande inakekele umndeni wayo and the woman endlini ayenza umsebenzi wobumen endlini ukuthi she must submit. I think if she can submit, I think it's where the understanding will be ukuthi okay now there's a communication between the two ukuthi okay now sengiyindoda ngiphela umsebenzi. What next? And then the women were like, okay, now I need to support my men, not to expect to go to end miracle. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Just to pick up, when you look at, as someone who mentors boys, and the challenge of traditional beliefs, and also the impact you've seen in terms of our society in creating safe spaces for boys, to express themselves as young boys, those you work with, could you just give us briefly, what have you found around that?
You know what? When you dealing with a boy child or dealing na someone very difficult because on how afundiswe ngakhona endlini ukuthi a man more indoda you supposed to act in a certain way and more intombazana you should act in a certain way. So when sibanabo ama one-on-one sessions umuntu uzovela athi it's the first time crying, I didn't know ukuthi it's right for me to cry and uzosho ukuthi no nasendlini you understand that they expect me ukuthi ngibe like ngiyindoda if let's say nisendlini there's a girl and a boy, so if maybe ngishaya lona mistake then they will act ukuthi why ushaya lona in but when lo intombazana maybe ashaye mina then it's when hi uyindoda ngizoshaya intombazana like they expect ukuthi ube namandla and it's when this thing iyakheka and then tutman sekamdala sakafuna uku-experience more because of azakubamnika that thing ukuthi no you need to sit down and say no it's sorry to one another no axolise kulo so abakwazi ukuthi ukuxolisa to say I'm sorry because of maybe there's this ego and abakhula nayo. So it's very difficult ukukhuluma nabo but it helps a lot because it's their safe space. Okay, it's now saying safe space, but sometimes they don't feel comfortable because as a gay person, a good community, this thing okay, because of he's a gay person and then busy in the he looks maybe one or two. So baba na that thing, let me associate myself with those sasa saying gay organ, but when times see as by educate okay, there's this LGBTI thing and then this thing. So when it's up to and which gender, so but yeah, we teach them everything, and then yeah.
Thank you so much, Sorobelo. Now I want to take it all the way to Malawi with our brother there, Teje. Teje, from your perspective, what unique mental health challenges have you perhaps encountered, let's say with a queer man face or navigating spaces and also just a dominant traditional masculinity and looking from a place like your Malawi, perhaps?
So, first of all, in Malawi, sexual minority rights are not fully recognized. There was the biggest highlight in terms of LGBTQI was when a guy called Steve Monjeza and a transgender called Tiwonge Chimbalanga, popularly known as Antisiwo, they got together and got engaged. And it was a big headline in the newspapers saying gays engage. So already, even from that heading, you know that we don't understand what we're talking about, even from a journalistic point of view, because it is a transgender person and a man that got engaged. But the headline said gays. So you don't even understand the difference between a gay person and a transgender person to begin with. So in terms of, say, for example, me personally, as somebody who works in mental health, the first thing that I would look at is the understanding. So as an artist, the understanding would be coming in terms of using multimedia platforms to now not educate, but bring the awareness in communities. First of all, in terms of understanding the sexual minority rights. There are organizations in Malawi like I think CRECOM, I'm not sure of the real names, but there are organizations like non-profits that are working towards social inclusion of queer people and also working towards creating awareness so that you understand their rights, you understand their place in society, and how we can work together in terms of reducing the stigma that is there. Because you can't be in Malawi and say, I'm gay. You're going to get arrested and get 14 years. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to drive towards, even at a policy-making level. Our president is not going to accept that. So when these two guys got engaged, with the guy under transgender man, he hadn't gone through the operation, but he felt like he's a woman trapped in a man's body. He dresses like a woman. He wears makeup. He goes to church and wears women's clothes and sits in the choir next to the women. Everything he does as a woman, but we don't accept that. We say, no, he's a man. You know, they're having sex, they're gays. To the point that he left Malawi. So the first thing is the awareness. So we understand exactly what we're working with, what we're living with, and how to accept that and, you know, have a more embracing society.
Yeah. Now, I want to bring it here to you, Mr. Buthelezi, once more. You have a society where it is said that 1 in 3 men commit suicide every minute. That is a scary number if you put it in hours. Is the traditional or the African proverb that monna ki pudi o lela o kengu o lela ka moga. So, or is it the sense of indoor in itself true? And is that perhaps a part of the reason why men's mental health is not such something we focus on today?
These things need to be broken down. Maybe let me just start by saying this. With the years of working with the boys, maybe for 12 years now, there are few information, there are few things that we have discovered throughout the years. In South Africa, not South Africa only, we only have 2 problems that give birth to all the problems that we have. Once we have that understanding first, what are those problems? One, we don't have homes or we don't have families. What is the role of a family to a human being, to the society, or to the nation? A family is a prototype of a country or a nation. One, every problem starts in the family level. So every problem starts in the family level. What is the role of a family to a human being? 5 things that it does. 1 is to teach, is to train, is to coach, mentor, and instruct. So if this structure is not in place to raise me as a man, which means there are most of the things that I'm going to miss out because I don't have a structure to raise me to be a man. Secondly, second problem that we have as a nation, we don't have fathers. If we don't have fathers, what is the role of a father in a family? What is the role of a father in the community? What is the role of a father in the nation? Let's start with the family. The role of a father in the family, a father does 4 things. 1, he gives, how can I put it? 1, a father gives the identity of a family. Secondly, a father gives the belief system. A father gives the name to his children. Because there are people, if they say, it is Mfana Kampumelelo, maybe my name, it's a pain to the society. Or maybe my name, it's a good name that, let's say, wherever you go, Mandela name, it's a name that the children, they inherit. So it tells me as a man that I need to protect my name to be a good name. And then the last thing a father gives to his family is education. 4 types of education: the one academic covered by school. We talk about the spiritual education, talk about personal education, talk about financial education and otherwise. So these are the things, two problems we have, these are the solution of it. And the mental health comes when the family is broken and the son is expecting to see a father that don't know why the father left. The second thing, the communication around the neighborhood, Norma, the communication in the society about men. What has been said about men is affect the boys because the boys, they see, I'm a man. One day I get a call, one of my mothers said, Pumelelo, can you speak to my son? He just posed a question, Mama, am I a dog? Because you normally say men are dogs, which means I'm a dog. So what we say as a community, one thing that we don't understand, we think pain has a gender. If it's female, it's understandable. If it's men, I know, we don't care about it. So whatever is being said to men, it affects the boys. That create the mental health to the boys. Boys are dealing with the loss of their fathers. Boys are dealing with the rejection. Boys are dealing with there's no opportunity for a boy child. Nothing spoken about a boy child. So we are just neglected. So all those things, they create mental health to a boy child. So this needs to be understood as us as a community.
Now, I want to just bring in Giovanni and Upetla as well. Both could be said you're public figures, and as you said, Petla, about being a single father, how would you put that in terms of a structure in the family and as a man? How do you bring that structure for your child in that instance? And also to add to Giovanni there, you look at. You said you look at, you are a teacher and you interact with a lot of different kids out there. Your perspective in terms of the importance of a family structure in young people.
Okay, lucky for me, I have a mother and a sister and two brothers who are so wonderful to my son. The support is amazing. It's not easy. It's not easy raising a boy child because you need to make them understand that there are good women out there. You see, there are loving women that will not neglect you or treat you in any other way or worse way in the world. So we just keep teaching him. And another thing, the justice system, is at fault because I got him through a court situation where I filed for custody. Sometimes we get there, the judges are biased as hell. When you get there, you're like the villain while you're trying to save your child. And it's not easy. But I'm surviving. He's happy, hasn't missed school since he's been staying with me. So lucky for me, I have a family. So he knows that warmth. And I also have a loving girlfriend. I need to mention this. Yeah. She's good to me and my son. So life is good now.
Yeah. Giovanni?
In terms of the importance of family is, I'm going to first, before I answer the entire question, the thing I saw that is the most broken in school systems in terms of personal life for the kids is most of the kids don't stay with their own parents. So they are not brought up by the parents, they are brought up by the grandparents or maybe a brother or a sister or so on. So that is a big factor that we should keep in consideration because most of the family tries to step in not knowing that they can't handle it themselves. And I think that's where the importance needs to be, is if you can't take care of the child, or you don't know much about doing it, I know it's family, but rather give it to someone, like we as a gay family, we want to adopt a child now. But for us, the structure is difficult because we have to pay more, they do more checks just because of what I identify as. I am gay. So why don't we who desperately want a child get the opportunity to give that child the education, the life they need, but now you leave them because it's blood family. So I think family is important, but not just family. Family that supports you, family that stands with you, and family that actually brings some value to your life.
Yeah. Now, I want to wrap it up with a question to Mxolisi Masilela as well right now, before we go over to Shelly with another round from our people, or another round of questions. Mxolisi, how does art and maybe storytelling serve as a tool to addressing men's mental health? And maybe what impact have you seen from their work in this space?
So repeat the question.
How does art and storytelling serve as a tool for addressing men's mental health issues? And what impact have you seen from your work in this space?
There are different forms of theater and theater practices that deals with mental health. One of it will be drama therapy, which is highly studied at Wits Drama for Life. You could study drama therapy to deal with the mental issues, and also in the same department of Drama for Life, there is applied theater that also deals with the mental health. But besides these forms and these studies, theater is a reflection of what is happening in the society, and theater is immediate. You see, hear, feel at the same time. So what is being reflected, it has two dangers: to fix or to perpetuate. So it has a thing of, when you're watching a theater about fatherless men, we might glorify it and say it's okay. So it's subjective also, that moibugele, how then do you take the theater into using it as a tool of greatness? But the theater could be used when these now studies are being involved in that art form, in how then do we use drama therapy and applied theater into using theater performance as a tool of a mental health tool to deal with mental health in young men. So for me is it has to be inclusive. One, it has to have also the session around, after watching a play, what do you take home? What is the problem and what is the solution? Unlike it being an art form that is being staged and then the consumers consume and leave, because they might get it wrong. They might say beating up a woman, it's okay because I've seen it in a play. They might say committing suicide is okay because I've seen it in a play. But what we need to do as theater practitioners or entertainers everywhere, when we have these topics in the work that we're creating, it is very imperative that we have also the talk backs after the work, and that becomes a tool to contribute into this pandemic of mental health. And again, I want us to really think of it as a clinical problem. Mental health is not something that you can just talk through and you're fine. So they need to be a clinical support. That you could heal from the mental illness that you have, being it anxiety or depression or whatever that you name it, is not something that you just talk through and then you're fine. You cannot talk flu through and then you poorly flu. The same as mental health. Yes, talking is part of the contribution into dealing with it, but is not the only thing. So I think also in the art spaces and in the communities, we need to be cognizant of that. Theater is not a tool, but it contributes into helping the mental health or the mental situation that we have in our country. So that's my thought. And Taja has to say something on the same thing.
Before Taja, you just touch on that. I want to just have something from Shelly as well, and at the back of what you just said as well.
Okay, sure.
And I'm bringing it in because once somebody scolded me as a man when I said a rose amongst the thorns. And looking at some of the questions you might have there, Shelly, with you, what Mxolisi said, just give us your perspective, maybe as men, mental health. Do you think it's something we focus on?
Repeat your question.
As men, do you think mental health is something, from a perspective of an onlooker, do we focus on that, maybe from your perspective?
On your mental health?
Yes.
No. So through research, right, I think we had a street quiz where we wanted to speak to different individuals, abantu besilisa to be specific. And we had so many men speaking about how they don't even know where to begin seeking for help. And they feel like in our communities, there are no places for them. For example, one gentleman spoke about how it's hard for him to go because then you'll find a female social worker. And then he said, I'm a man at the end of the day. I will not cry in front of a woman. I've been taught like that. I grew up like that. So why can't we find male social workers, emakasi to be specific, someone that I can walk in and break down and talk about my problems? And then he spoke about how men sitting ekoneni, ekawashi, you know, they don't speak, because I said, but you guys, you seem very, because I mean, you know, Elokshin in a township, you walk around, you find men in one place and they get along, because as women as well, we have that problem that a group of women, we don't get along at all, but men do. So that idea on its own, but finding out deeper that no, actually, he said, no, we may chill and talk about the weather, talk about girls, but then we don't talk about our problems, because I'm thinking, what is he going to say about me? We don't even trust each other about our problems. So what more walking in, seeking for help, and you find a woman? So I can't cry in front of a woman because I've been raised like that. And then just speaking on that, I think going back to Mr. Jones and Mr. Buthelezi, because I think they did touch on, just to summarize it, they did touch on how the intersection of culture and sexual orientation impact the mental health of men. So now in the context of Black African traditions, so now my question is, it's more of like a solution. So how do you then think communities can actively work to dismantle harmful stereotypes about men and mental health?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'll take it from what Taja had to say and then maybe bring it to Mr. Buthelezi.
No, I wanted to stress on the arts. Not just theater by itself, but arts, and then, like you also said, storytelling. Because the whole point of perhaps even this forum is the storytelling. Sometimes we miss the opportunity to use that storytelling to tell the pertinent stories. So, for instance, it's a cultural thing. Theater is a cultural thing. Say, for example, in Malawi, perhaps the best theater maker was doing political plays. Then the narrative in most of the plays becomes political. But plays are a chance for you in terms of theater. It's far more reaching than we give it credit for. With theater, you can do teletheater, like theater for television. You can do radio dramas. You can do stage theater. And then you can do community theater, where you're doing TFD, theater for development, and going in those communities. But you're talking about penile dysfunction, you know? You're talking about premature ejaculation. You're talking about sterility and infertility. You're talking about unemployment. You're talking about having bad teeth. You're talking about being looked upon down because you got dark skin. Everybody's looking at bright-colored men or light-skinned men. You're talking about real issues that affect you as a man. You know, if there's a beautiful woman there, you would like to have sex with her, but your penis can't get hard, and you got nobody to talk to. Theaters should be talking about this. Plays should be discussing such issues. You know, you just got laid off at work. Which play is talking about that? So we can always look at our heroes and put them in plays and that, but I love realism, like realistic theater, where you're looking at real life issues. I lost my job yesterday. What's going to happen tomorrow?
Yeah.
There's school fees in January. Next January, there's school fees. As a father, what am I going to do? You know, it's been 5 months, or 5 years, rather, sorry, 5 years with my wife, and there's still no child. What are they saying in the village? You know, so the plays that we write, the narrative should also look at such inclusivity. Personally, I'm first of all a writer. So I like writing children's stories. I like writing folktales. But in my folktales, I want to discuss pertinent issues. So if we're looking at mental health, let's take, for example, the issue of, let's say, an autistic child, or a child with Down syndrome, or a child with epilepsy. Such debilitating factors that make you maybe a social leper, an outcast in society. How does that discrimination affect your mental health?
Yeah.
If you say, for example, you're a child with Down syndrome, you're growing up as a child, right? You're a child, it doesn't matter, but now you're a teenager with Down syndrome still. You don't have the same life like I would have as a normal person. Now you're no longer a child, you're no longer a teen, you're a young man, let's say you're 22, 23, and you've never had sex yet, but you see it on TV, you see it in the music videos, you see it on your phone, you see it on TikTok. But as a Down syndrome person, you're not going to have a chance to say, walk up to a girl like Shirley and say, hey, I like you, I want to go out with you. She'll look down upon you. She won't even give you the time of day, you know? So what do? Do they just masturbate? You know? So these are the stories that we need to be talking about if we're really talking about mental health. So in Malawi, I work with young people a lot. And I used to work in terms of adolescent sexual reproductive health. And you look at these young guys, he's 18 and he's made a girl pregnant. But he's supposed to know about contraceptives. We teach them about contraceptives, but we don't teach them right. We put them in flyers. People don't want to read flyers. But people can sit down and watch a 2-minute play on their phone, you know. They can watch a 2-minute awareness video on their TikTok. Okay, so these are the mental health issues that we really need to be focusing on, talk about them and have it open up there. That's why we started a program in Malawi called Mental Health Today. It's something similar to this, but with lesser of a cast, just a producer, the host, and a guest. With the guest, we welcome them. We ask them to say, okay, please open up. This is a free space. The whole point of this is open dialogue so that we have more understanding of mental health, of what bothers you. So he will say, okay, fine, my problem is bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
So when I'm fine, but when the bipolar strikes, then I'm in the doldrums, or I'm super hyper, I'm productive, or I'm depressed, I don't want to go out for 3 weeks. So how does that affect you? You don't want to go out for 3 weeks, you're a theater maker, you've got a deadline, you've got rehearsals, but you can't go out there.
Yeah. Now, as you say that, I want to bring it to Bob Telezi on the question that Usheli has raised, and we'll definitely want to engage more on what Uteja has said as well.
Okay, there is one thing that need to be understood with our societies. One, we need awareness. We need awareness first because we don't love ourselves. The challenge or the problem we hate each other. We hate ourselves, not each other. We hate ourselves too much. That, let me make an example. Men are not a light bulb. That today you switch it off, tomorrow you switch it on. Yesterday, they were saying men are trash. Today, you want me as a man to go to the same female, to cry to the same female that we were saying yesterday, I'm a trash. Understand those contributions. Secondly, as I've said before, pain does not have a gender. So all the things that have been said about men, we just forget about them. We want men to switch off now to become what we want them to become.
Yeah.
So it needs time, it needs awareness, it needs love mostly.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Buthelezi. I think for now, we'll have to just go and just maybe say, I'm African to the stores and come back once again. Cindy Sontlabati for the Gauteng Network.